In this video, we're going to look at the amalgam of mercury and aluminum. Some information: mercury and aluminum naturally form an amalgam, as mercury forms an amalgam with a number of metals, but this one is rather unique. An amalgam only means a mixture or a blend. In this case, this would be a mercury alloy. In the reaction, the aluminum is usually protected with an oxide layer, but the mercury disrupts this from happening, allowing this continued mixing of the two. So as the amalgam is formed, it can only be formed with aluminum that is not oxidized. As the amalgam is formed, some of it falls back into the mercury, producing aluminum. This aluminum then is oxidized rather quickly and it's pushed out and up, but mostly up. If you've not seen this reaction, the top and bottom won't make much sense, but I'll go through that in just a second. Because this aluminum becomes oxidized right away, it creates these fibers of aluminum oxide that surround the mercury droplet. So the droplets in the center and around it are these aluminum oxide fibers that grow up together in a circle around the mercury. So here's our chunk of aluminum. Because the aluminum oxidizes so quickly, I'm going to drill a hole in here, and then I'm going to put some weak hydrochloric acid in there until I'm ready to get the mercury droplet, which will go in next. I'll probably absorb this hydrochloric acid, immediately put the mercury in there so no oxidation can occur, and therefore the mercury and the aluminum can react right away. There are two reactions occurring when the hydrochloric acid is put inside this shallow hole in the aluminum. The first one is the aluminum oxide layer, which is going to be there because it happens so quick, plus the hydrochloric acid will yield aluminum chloride and water. The second reaction is once it's eaten through the aluminum oxide, it will react directly with the aluminum, again producing aluminum chloride, same as up here, but this time producing hydrogen gas. So you'll see some bubbles forming just before we put the mercury in there. As the amalgam is formed initially deep down in here with the mercury contacting the aluminum, it will grow, but some of it's going to fall back into that mercury, as I was mentioning, and that will release the aluminum, which does get oxidized pretty much immediately, and that gets pushed out, but mostly up in this reaction. It's pretty unique. So as it spreads, it's slow, but as it spreads, you'll get a column of aluminum oxide fibers, is what they really look like, and it will continue to grow until the mercury and the amalgam no longer can contact each other, and at that point, it'll stop. Usually it's around 3 or 4 inches up in the air. As mercury eats so quickly into the aluminum, mercury and airplanes do not mix, especially ones that go above 10,000 feet, which is the point you need oxygen, so that's a bad thing. Mercury, however, does not react with iron. It's one of the only metals that doesn't, if not the only one. I can't quite remember, to be honest, but it doesn't. So mercury is usually transferred in iron containers. Glass would also work, but you know what would happen if the glass cracks. I drilled a shallow hole here and put about half of a drop of water worth of mercury in there and a tiny bit of hydrochloric acid just to clean up the aluminum as best as possible. It's been sitting for about a minute here. This is just a test for the bigger example I hope to do soon. 30 minutes out, and it's starting to look a little crazy there. An hour and 15 minutes later, and it's starting to really look like the tower I was hoping for. Now on to what I hope will be a bigger demonstration. I'm going to take some of this weak hydrochloric acid, even though this hole was just drilled, just to make sure no oxidation has occurred. And I'm going to leave it there for probably a minute or two. So I'll be back. You can already see a bubble. Alright, it's been a couple minutes. I'm just going to soak this up and immediately put this mercury there. Okay, now we wait. Been about 20 minutes and there's already a half circle of growth around there. That's the aluminum that has been oxidized pretty much immediately. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. It's been 2 hours since I first put the mercury droplet in that aluminum there, and on the edge there it grew out so far that a piece fell off, but otherwise it's doing all right. I'm looking from the other side here, and you can clearly see that the wall is not quite as well put together as on the front, and there's quite a few gaps, but it seems to be holding up okay so far. We're 2.5 hours out, and it is almost 8 centimeters, maybe a millimeter or two short. Yeah, even if I straighten it out there. Okay, nice. This reminds me of a redwood tree. You know, the one that has a road going through it. It's been only 20 minutes since my last video clip you just saw, and it's up to 9 centimeters. It grew at such a rate I could see it move, which is why I just checked it again. And I don't know if that's because it's near the end of growing or why it just grew so quickly, but it did. And yeah, it's getting taller than I thought it would. If you look straight down the top, you can still see the mercury in the middle there. This is going to be my last measurement here. 10 centimeters plus. It grew so much more than I thought it would, but it's extremely frail. I don't know if it's going to slow down here or whether it's going to fall over. I just want to see how this looks with the UV light on it. It does fluoresce, for sure. Look at that. Yeah, it's folding for sure. And there it went. Such total destruction.
And now, a message from our sponsor.
Introducing Moron, a monthly subscription service. Our monthly subscription to Moron gives you black mold and insight into quagmire algorithms, strong reasoning skills for broken and odd objects, hands-on dismemberment, the ability to use everyday objects to prove you are a moron, key concepts in trying to open a bag, tuition into core brain ramblings, and flashcards are included. More flashcards are included, and even more flashcards are included. A bottle of slow-release cyanide. Try everything that Moron has to offer for the first 30 days for free. Just go to moron.org. That's moron.org. Put the link down in the description. For viewers of this video, Moron is offering a 20% off their annual premium subscription to the first to unsign their contract with Moron. And finally, I want to thank Moron for demonetizing this video, and I want to thank you for demonetizing Moron.